What's up, everybody?
Hello, everybody.
It's Saturday night,
Saturday
so you know what
night.
time it is. It's time for Have a Conversation After Dark. Listen, we have one ask.
Doing it now.
One ask. Tap the share button. If you know, no matter whether you're watching it live or if you're watching the replay, that's our only ask is to tap the share button. And the reason why we asked you to tap the share button is because we want as many people to come in and be a part of the conversation because you all are the best part of this conversation. If you're new to this is Have a Conversation After Dark. This is a space where we just throw some things out there and have conversation about them. And the whole goal really is to get you all to have conversations
Mm-hmm.
because, and we say this at the beginning and at the end of every episode, it's because conversation is a catalyst
For growth,
and conversation is a catalyst for,
learning,
and conversation is a catalyst for.
bonding.
And so, if you want to learn more about your spouse, what better way than to have a conversation with your spouse?
Mhm.
If you want to grow with your spouse, what better way than to have a conversation with your spouse? And if you want to bond with your spouse, what better way
What better way?
than to have some great conversation? And all we do is throw some stuff out there.
Mm-hmm.
Now, it might be stuff that you should be talking about, it might be stuff that maybe doesn't really matter to you one way or the other, but it makes for good conversation.
Maybe something that you're like, never really thought to have that
That's right.
conversation.
You may learn something.
But we're here. So
If
let's
you've
talk
never,
about it.
yeah, and if you've never seen them, please go back wherever you're watching this right now and find older episodes
Mm-hmm.
because they're great. They're good conversations.
They are good
Um,
conversations.
listen, for those of you who are with us on Thursdays for our Thursday show, first of all, let's introduce ourselves just in case there might be somebody who doesn't know who we are. I'm Oliver,
I'm Denise.
and we make up Denali, and we are passionate about seeing relationships thrive. We are coaches, we're speakers, we're authors in that space.
Yeah.
And yeah, like I said, we're passionate about seeing relationships thrive.
Mm-hmm.
Um, one-on-one coaching, group coaching, speaking, and
All
the
of the
like.
above.
Right now, for those of you who are with us and hang out with us on our Thursday show, which is Inside the Relationship, you would have noticed we have not been there for the last 2 weeks. Obviously, this past Thursday was Thanksgiving. Happy Thanksgiving to everybody who celebrates that, and for those who don't celebrate it, that is fine too. But happy holidays to you. Hopefully, you had some time to at least connect with the people that you care about the most.
Mm-hmm.
And last Thursday we weren't there as well. However, this Thursday, and I don't have I should have put the graphic up so that people can see.
Yes.
This Thursday on Inside the Relationship, which airs at 7 p.m. on Thursdays Eastern Standard Time, we are talking to Tanique Gentles.
Such a wonderful woman.
Tanique Gentles is a sex therapist.
Such a
So
sweetheart.
we want everybody to be in the house for that one. That's going to be Thursday. We are back with Inside the Relationship this Thursday. Matter of fact, all of December, we got a great lineup of guests. This is the first time where the entire month we have a guest for every show.
Yep.
Great guests coming up.
Yep,
so
yep.
if you haven't been down with that show, that's another show you need to get with. All right, so let's get into this because we're not going to be on here too long tonight. I say that every night. We're always here an hour, but we're not going to be on too long tonight. Here's the topic for tonight: age,
size, hair, etc. Does it really matter?
Age, size, hair. So,
does it really matter?
Does it really matter? And when we say does it really matter in relationships? Now, size, we can go a lot of different ways with that. It is an after dark show, so you can go wherever you want to go with that. Does size, meaning weight, matter? Does size, meaning length, matter? Go wherever you want to go with that.
I didn't know you were going there.
That's why I didn't say one way or the other, so that we could have an opportunity to go wherever we go. How about that? But let's start with the age thing, right? And this obviously, if you're married already, probably won't apply to you. I'd love to hear some single folks perspective on this, but you were sharing with me a lady who is 60 68.
8, I think, or 65, 60 something.
And currently has a 26-year-old
26, yeah.
boyfriend, right?
Hmm.
And we were having a conversation earlier while we were eating. You hear more of, although I believe it's happening at an equal rate,
Hmm.
you hear more of men, older men, having younger women. Like Lionel Richie's, the person he's with right now is, I think, 30 years younger than he is, right?
Hmm.
Like that kind of thing. However, I do believe that just as many, we just don't hear about it, women,
Women.
older women, are hooking up with younger men.
Yeah, I feel like I hear this. I hear it from both sides equally.
Hmm.
That's what I feel like.
Okay. The question I'm posing to those who are watching now or watching the replay is there a size gap that is too large in your mind? Is there an age gap that is inappropriate? So I know somebody who, and I don't think they're still married, but I know somebody who married, it was a lady who married someone 15 years older than her.
15 years older.
15 years older.
Okay.
So that means, let's say she was 40. She wasn't 40, but let's say she was 40.
He was
He's
55.
55, right? Is there, in your mind, is there an age gap where you're like, nah, that ain't right?
For me, there is.
Okay.
I don't know what the age is.
What is
I
it?
don't know. Okay, so I'm what am I? 50? How old am I? 55? 56? I never know how old I am.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like anything 10 years older than me, for me,
Mm-hmm.
that's a stretch.
What about younger? Can you go 10 years younger?
No.
So no, not 40, 45 or 46? No?
I don't know. I don't think so.
That's interesting.
Maybe that's not. I feel like over 40 is not so terrible.
Okay. It's interesting because
But
you
then
like younger men.
I knew you were going to say that.
I
I knew it.
was waiting all night to say that. I was from way earlier when I put the show together. I was like, I can't wait.
That's
to
why
just
you
say
wanted
that.
to. This is the whole reason
The
why
whole
you
reason.
wanted
That's
to do
it.
this show.
No, I want to know y'all's opinion too. But trust me, that was bubbling in me. I just had to get it out.
I know.
I know you like younger men.
It's only 3 years, man.
It's all good. Younger is younger. That's why I'm asking. What age gap is too much? What age gap is too much?
Yeah, I feel like for me, anyone, 10 years is a stretch. Younger, 10 years younger is a really big stretch for me.
Okay.
And anything beyond or younger than like 40, nah. But here's the reason. The thing is though, I don't know that I have a valid reason other than just doesn't seem like it's the right thing to do.
Yeah. And I think for most of us, if we really admit it, I don't think anybody has a valid reason.
Yeah. Well, some people do.
Yeah, but when I say valid, I mean like is it really wrong? Now, here's where it becomes wrong. Where it becomes wrong, obviously, is if the person is underage.
Of course.
Like that's a given.
That's
like
not even part of the
we're not talking
conversation.
about that. We're talking about the 27-year-old guy who meets the 57-year-old woman, which, by the way, living proof, folk in their 50s don't look like they in their 50s.
Oh, thank you.
So it ain't really nothing for a 57-year-old woman to link up with a 27-year-old guy. Not in this day and time.
The only thing I could think of though is that how much can you relate to me and where I am right now in my life? If you're and I don't mean only 27, like 27 is a horrible age, but if you're 27 and I'm 57, I don't feel like we can relate.
Not compatible on certain levels.
Okay. Yeah, I don't feel like. The thing is though too, no. I was going to say if it was flipped, like I'm 56 and I was dating someone that was 76,
Mm-hmm.
I kind of
Still not compatible.
I kind of feel like I'm getting up there, but I'm
Mm-hmm.
not. I don't think I can relate. I don't know how much we would have in common
Mm-hmm. And you're
if
potentially signing up to be a caregiver at that point,
potentially.
depending on how, what shape the person's in.
Having said that, though, I feel like the where I'm at right now in my life, if
Mm-hmm.
I was dating someone that was 70, 75,
Mm-hmm.
I feel like, they can be like, oh, actually we can relate because it's almost like it's the later side of life for both
Mm-hmm.
of us.
Right.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. And
Whereas a 27-year-old has so much more life to live
yeah,
and so much more to experience.
I
I'm
think
not saying that, anyone knows when they're going to die. I don't mean it
right,
that
right.
way, but
I think you got to go case by case, because I think if we're going to generalize, then the woman being younger and the man being older is
mhm.
probably the more compatible relationship,
Say it
because
again. The
the
woman.
woman being younger, the
Mhm,
man being older is
mhm,
probably the more compatible relationship. And this is if we're generalizing,
mhm.
because the general consensus that women mature faster than men. So
Well, it's a fact. It's
there's
not
going to
a
be,
consensus like.
well, it depends. There,
It's a fact.
there are some women who don't mature as fast as guys, which is why I'm saying case by case basis, right? So I'll use myself as an example. I'll put myself out there. For the majority of my life, I have always liked older women. Always. I mean, I can think back to being like 12, 13 years old and seeing older ladies in church, and not older like 50, 60, but older like 30s. And like, man, they tight. Like
Why?
I
That's
could
a
get
whole
with that.
nother, whole nother.
But I'm just being honest. I end up with an older woman.
I'm not that much older. You make it
You
seem
are
like it's 15 years.
one day, 100 days. It don't matter. It's the same.
It is not
It's
the
all the same. So but I've always, and here's the thing, I'm not saying by any means that I am just this incredibly mature individual, but I feel like I feel like I was able to relate to older women more than younger women,
Mm,
because, and I'm gonna tell you why. For me, and this is why just to prove the point that it's by case basis. Older women, in my experience, didn't play games.
correct.
They wanted what they wanted. They didn't what they didn't, and I could respect that.
Hmm.
All this back and forth, and we good one day and we ain't good the next day, and I had no tolerance for that. And older women didn't get down like that.
Hmm.
So I think that's where, that's just me though. So um but you all let me know, is there in your mind, is there a size? No, we didn't get the size yet.
We
We're
didn't
getting
get
the
to
size
size
right
yet.
now. Is there an age gap that you feel like is inappropriate? Now, again, we're not talking about underage, like that ain't on the table.
Right.
We're talking about, like, say a 27-year-old guy meets a 47-year-old woman. Is that cool? 57-year-old guy meets a 25-year-old female. Is that cool? Like, what do you think about that?
Yeah. I agree that it is probably case by case. It's all relative to the relationship.
Hmm.
And I don't know if appropriateness comes into play or that it has to come into play. I just
Okay.
feel like it's just a case by case,
Yeah.
relationship by relationship, and if it works for you, hey, that's how I feel. If
That's
it works for you, hey.
that's kind of how I feel too. Now,
Mhm.
that being said, God forbid something were to happen to us,
Mhm.
that we split up, right? At 53, I'm not dipping into the 20s. I'm not even dipping into the 30s.
But the 20s today is different from the 20s back
You're right.
then. So
You're right.
yeah,
And my tolerance is
lower than it was back then.
extremely low. I mean,
Yeah.
it's dangerously low.
Yeah, I hear you.
I need to work on that. That's how low it is.
I get it.
So I'm not. That wouldn't work for me.
Me either.
Matter of fact, I'm probably gonna go the other way. God forbid if we were to split up. I'm going the other way. At 53, I'm looking for 65. Yeah, for real. I'm looking for stable, clear-headed. You know what I'm saying?
Mm.
You know, yeah. So for
Yeah.
me, I wouldn't be able to do that. What about size? So let's go to size.
So size, as far as body size.
Okay. Because we can go both ways with this,
We're
ladies
talking
and
about
gentlemen.
no, we're not. We're going to talk about body size.
We'll talk about body size, but if you got some other sizes you want
No.
to talk about, we can throw that in there too.
We're going to talk about body size. My only concern with body size is when you are unhealthy, and you can be larger and unhealthy, and you can be smaller and unhealthy.
Mhm.
If it's affecting your health,
Mhm.
that's my concern. No, that's not my only concern, actually.
Hold your other concern for a second. Let me just ask a question to those who are watching. And folk may not want to comment, and I respect it if you don't. For those of you who are married, here's a real good question, and this is a conversation that you need to have.
Mhm.
We've had this conversation. Here's a conversation you need to have if you're married. Is there a number? Is there a size?
Yeah, no.
Is there a weight that your spouse can get to where you're like, we got to do something?
Like, the thing is, a lot of couples, I feel like, I shouldn't say a lot, but there are couples I know for sure
Mhm.
that are not comfortable having that conversation
I know.
when it comes to preferences. Like how you look to me, when I look at you, how you look to me matters. A lot of couples are not comfortable having that conversation.
Yeah, and I don't know why, because here's the crazy thing about not being comfortable having that conversation. You're going to treat the person the way you think anyway.
That's true. That's true.
So even if you and I don't have the conversation, you're going to know at some point.
That's true.
If I ain't trying, you know what I'm saying? If I ain't trying to have sex, if I ain't, you know what I'm saying, I'm standoffish, or if I'm, you know what I mean? You're going to know even without me saying.
Well, you may not know, but you're going to know something's wrong.
You're going to suspect something.
Yeah.
So you might as well have a conversation.
Yeah.
You might as well, listen, it's not an advice show, but you might as well be honest and be like, hey, listen, you can't get to 350. Like, I'll help you.
Or 150.
Or 150. Like, yeah, it could be the other way. It could be the other way.
Could be the other way.
Because we know folk who are going the other way, and that's not a good thing either.
Right.
Right. So yeah, you just gotta, I think that's a conversation that you should have. So we've had the conversation, I think, a couple of times. Most recent, because my wife, shout out to my wife, she is killing it. Exercising, consistency and exercising, eating way better than I'm eating. I mean, she's killing the game. So as a result of killing the game, she's dropping some pounds, right? So you came to me not too long ago and you're like, I can't remember how you worded it, but essentially what you were asking me was, how do I feel about the size you currently are? Right? Which caught me off guard because I wasn't ready to, not ready. That's not the
you
right
weren't
word.
ready, which
Not ready.
means that
No,
you have an opinion.
It's not that. It's not I wasn't ready. That's the completely wrong word. I just hadn't thought about what I hadn't thought about what my thoughts were. Because you remember, I didn't say anything to you initially, and you were like taken back, like, what's that supposed to mean? I hadn't thought about it. So I had to think about it right then and there. And I gave you my preference. I was like, there's certain things that are, disappearing that I'd like to come back. You know what I mean? Like, but I'm not, you got to be able to talk about that, though.
Be able to talk about it.
This show is called Have a Conversation. If you can't talk about that, there are potentially some other things that you probably need to deal with if you cannot have these kinds of conversations.
What do you mean?
If you're unable to talk about these kinds of things with your spouse, that could be an indicator. I'm not gonna throw everybody under the bus. That could be an indicator that there are other issues.
Okay.
And it could be simple. Hey, I don't know how this person receives communication. It might not be nothing crazy, but just I don't know how they receive communication, so I've never said, or it hasn't come up because of whatever.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. For me, I was gonna say that my only concern is health-wise, that it starts to affect your health in a negative way.
Okay.
Whether you're larger or smaller, like I said, it can go either way. But honestly, if I'm honest, it wouldn't matter to me. It would matter to me, honestly, if you were too small or if you were too large.
Okay, so since you put that, what is, give me a number, too large. What can I not get to?
I don't know if there's a number. I don't know. To me, it's just all like visual.
Okay.
A visual preference.
So a
for
size.
me.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know if there's a number because the number I say, you might look great. You know what I mean?
Yeah, understood.
So I don't know that there's a number, but honestly, I wouldn't want you to be too large or too small. I remember there was a number that you said that you wanted to get to. Often you say it, and I don't remember what it is, but I'm like, no, that's too small.
Right.
Yeah.
I remember you saying that.
Yeah. So we have to be honest about that.
We do.
You know? I just feel like we have to be honest about that too.
So that means if we're answering this question, does it really matter? It does matter.
It doesn't matter to everyone. It's again, this is one of those things where it's a case by case or relationship by relationship scenario.
So let me ask you.
It might matter to me, but to someone else, they might be like, honestly, I'm okay with that.
So with you saying that, do you really believe that there are people where size does not matter? So obviously we know that there are really large people in the world and that they're married, a lot of them. But do you really believe that it does not matter?
I'm sure it doesn't to some people. I do believe that to some people it does not matter.
And except for obviously the fetish folks, because there are people who like big girls. You know, there's the whole BBW and S, whatever it is. I can't even remember what the acronyms are, but basically that's the thing.
Okay.
So people do like big girls, right? But outside of that, right? I don't know. I'd love to hear that. I'd love to hear from somebody who was like, man, I don't care how big my spouse gets. Because I don't know that exists. Like outside of the fetish folks who are like, yeah, bring me the BBW. And that's usually going to be something that leads you down the porn path.
Yeah.
So outside of that, like just the average guy, if I'm sitting with 10 guys, I'm willing to bet that none of those 10 guys are going to be like, I don't care how big my spouse gets.
I don't know.
But they probably didn't tell her that though.
So do you think that they didn't say anything?
I think that there's some people who probably don't say anything because that's a tough conversation to have with a woman.
Tough conversation to have. Well, it's a tough conversation to have with a man too, I think.
Yeah, I agree, but definitely with a woman. Because there's I can't think of any good way to be like, you too big.
Well, yeah, there's a way.
What is it?
You know, I prefer you when you are a smaller size. It's just more appealing to me. Yeah, that's not a nice way to say it.
I mean, I think so, but I'm just saying, I don't know how many women would just take that. Yeah, it's a tough topic.
It is.
Shout out to Gamal.
It is. Hey, Gamal.
It's a tough topic to tackle. I don't. And you even saw my reaction when you asked me about how you look now.
You didn't want to say anything.
I was kind of like fumbling a little bit. Like I was, give me a second. Let me put my words together. Like I don't know. I don't know. Cheryl Davis is in the house. Cheryl Davis.
Hello.
Shout out to Cheryl Davis. Thank you for being here, Cheryl. Hey, listen, man.
It is a
Uh,
tough topic to tackle, like Gamal said. But go ahead. Sorry, I
I was
cut
just
you
gonna
off.
say Cheryl Davis is part of the team for the um what's the marriage thing that's happening in Trinidad,
Okay.
and we're really disappointed that we can't be there. But I'm sure there'll be others. So, but yeah, I was just talking to someone today. It was like, man, I'm disappointed I can't be at that. So, but yeah, there is a way, I guess. But
Yeah, I feel like how I said it
mhm,
is, again, you got to know your spouse.
you gotta know your spouse.
You know, that might not work for some people, for them to say like what I said. You know, you know, pounds are coming on, and I love you, and you can't say but.
Hmm.
And it just, I prefer, when you weren't this size.
Okay.
How can we get back to that? I don't
How can we
know.
fix that?
Gamal says, I've been told in the past that I've gotten too big, and I took it in stride. I've never been able to make any comment on a woman's size and not have her be
Yep, I
offended.
agree.
I'm inclined to believe that it's not really possible. I
Gamal,
could be wrong.
Gamal,
Do you agree?
I'm with you, Gamal.
Huh.
I don't know no good way to say that.
I wonder why that is.
I
Why
don't know
why
no
is
good way to
that?
say that.
Why is that?
That's not on us though. That's on y'all.
Yeah, but I'm wondering why that is.
Cheryl Davis said, "Fight for your marriage." Yes, that's the name of it. Fight for your marriage. Happening next week in Trinidad. Next year for sure. Yes, we're on it.
Mhm.
We're on it.
I wonder why that is, though.
Uh, what's good, fam? Thank you for being here. The
What's
thing
up,
is,
John? That's the same thing that you said. John says this, the thing is,
yes,
if you don't let them know, it'll probably manifest into something
yeah.
else. I
So
agree.
you're going to let them know.
Yeah.
Like,
You
let's be
may not
clear.
verbally
You may
say
not say the
anything.
words, but
Yeah.
you're gonna let them know.
Yeah.
Like, you're gonna be iffy about them in bed. You're gonna be, you know what I'm saying? Something gonna happen
Yeah.
where you like, nah, I ain't really trying to.
You may even say like backhanded things. Like, you sure you
True.
want to eat all that? Stuff like that. Like, don't you want to order a
Oh,
salad instead? Those types of things, which is not, that's not the way to go
that's
about.
yeah.
That might be even worse than coming
That
out.
might be worse.
Yeah, that might be
The
even
passive
worse. The
aggressive, yeah,
passive aggressive.
that might even be worse than just be
Yeah.
like, hey, listen, you know what? You know what? Maybe, and I don't know. Tell me if this would work with you.
Mhm.
If I pull because and I'm saying you specifically, not
Okay.
all women,
Okay.
because I know you,
Mhm.
right? And you keep clothes.
I do.
So if I were to go to the closet and pull out something that I know you can't wear anymore, and I'm like, man, I love this.
Mhm.
Is that passive aggressive?
Um, I
Or if I
I
follow it up by saying, I love this, I would love to see you in this again.
I don't think I would take it as passive aggressive. I
Okay.
don't think I would.
Okay.
I don't think I would.
Okay.
That's another thing. It's might just be different for someone else.
It might be.
Gamal says this is a double-edged sword. A man who values his life will never tell his woman that she's getting too big. However, him not telling her will affect the marriage. So what if it's starting to, so you don't want to say anything, the
Mhm.
man doesn't want to say anything, but what if it's starting to, what if it's John, what if it's more than just I preferred you when you were smaller?
Mhm.
What if it's now, like I said before, starting to affect your health or their health, your wife or your husband, if it's the other way around?
So I think
Would
if
you
it's
still not say anything because you feel like the wife is going to chop your head off or get mad or whatever?
no, I think the health thing is actually your way in.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah,
Would you
you're
agree
right,
with that,
John.
Gamal?
That's not gonna go over well. I think for me, and I'm speaking for myself, I think for me, if health is an issue,
Mm-hmm.
that's an open door for me to be like, hey, babe, you know what? I need to have you around. I love you.
Mm-hmm.
I want to have you around. Hey, let's see what we can do to
Mm-hmm.
get to address the health issue,
Mm-hmm.
because we know addressing the health issue is going to help the other stuff. So I'm not going to be
Mm-hmm.
like, let's do let's see what we can do to get the weight down. Let's see what we can do. What are all the things that we need to do to address the health issue?
Mm-hmm.
And part of that might be you got to drop some pounds,
Mm-hmm.
right? So that, I think for me, that would be that would help create a soft landing for me.
Yeah, maybe if because you guys are saying that it's more so an issue with the women with the husbands having to tell the wives.
Yeah, so if you were to tell me, which I'm trying to think, I think you might have told me that before, that
Did
I was
I?
getting a little heavy, like at my heaviest when I was
I don't
heavier.
remember.
Obviously, I'm still heavy, but then I was heavier than I was.
I don't remember that.
But I think for me, and I can't speak for all guys, for me, what it's going to make it, I'm not going to be offended as much as I will then now become self-conscious.
Hmm.
And that's
Which
me.
I don't
I'm
want
only
that
speaking for me. I'm only
either.
speaking for me. I can't speak for other guys. I'm only speaking for me. I would become self-conscious. I wouldn't be offended that you told me. The fact that you told me would make me be like, okay, man, what am I going to do?
Hmm.
Like I would
Well,
be trying to figure out what am I going to do.
hmm.
Elizan is in the house. What's up,
Hey,
Elizan?
Elizan. Elizan says there is no pleasing some men. Some men have problems when you are heavy, and when the weight is gone, they rather you bigger.
That's true. I
This
agree.
is true.
I agree.
This is true.
And I think that's why that's why the conversation is warranted, right? Because I think that couples should be able to say, hey, listen, here's my size preference.
Hmm.
Here's what I think is sexy. Here's what I think is desirable and attractive. Can can we work to stay in that range?
I
I don't think there's anything wrong with saying that.
I wonder why some women or wives. I wonder why that is such an issue because I can hear even myself saying in my mind I can hear myself saying something like you should just accept me.
Exactly. Exactly.
What is that? We
That
need
is
a psychologist in here. Where
that
is
is
Dr. Parks?
the exact answer
Right?
that we are trying to
To
avoid.
avoid. Mm. I've never heard a man
Be,
say that.
because the truth is, in a perfect world, I should accept you, but my acceptance of you should not be at the expense of my preferences.
Mm.
And that's what no one will say.
I wonder. Yeah, you're right.
That's what
You're
no one
right.
will say.
You're right.
I do need to accept you,
Yeah.
hands down,
Yeah.
but not at the expense of my preferences, because I'm gonna end up
Mm.
treating you based on my preferences, not my acceptance of you.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we might as well just tell the truth.
Yeah. The other thing I'm thinking of too, and we talked about this on another show few weeks ago, where early on in our relationship, I
Mhm.
was saying how you pointed something out about me.
Mhm.
And I started crying and saying, you should accept me
Mhm.
for how I am.
Mhm.
And so even with us more mature in our marriage now,
Mhm.
I don't know if I would have that same reaction. And I
Okay.
don't know, though, also, if you would even point out something like that now,
I
or would you?
I might, but
Mm.
I was insensitive in that moment that you described. I
You
would
were.
not be insensitive in if it were to happen again.
I agree. I don't think you would be, but do you think that you would still even feel the need to say something at this point in our relationship about what you pointed out?
Yeah, probably not.
I don't think so either.
Probably
So
not.
my point is in asking that question is, does d- with maturity, would size matter?
That's a great question.
You know what I
That's
mean?
a great question. Let's get these comments. That's a
Hi,
good question.
Siobhan.
Siobhan Branch is in the house.
Siobhan says, "Hey, fam. I think it's difficult for women to hear that because we have an innate desire to be desired by our husbands. The woman knows the pounds are there and probably isn't exactly excited about it." Very good point.
That's a good point.
That's a good point.
That's a good point. Now,
Yeah,
here's my
that's
here's
true.
my counter, just for the sake of being argumentative. So if you know that, why are you upset with me telling you that?
I think maybe it's more of a because it's uncomfortable and it's more of a um honestly embarrassing.
Hmm.
It's uncomfortable and like Siobhan said, we already know it. And so for you to point it out, it's like, yeah, he knows it too, and I'm uncomfortable. So it's like a defense mechanism when I get upset with you for saying anything.
Okay.
It's a defense mechanism.
I can.
Do you get it?
I can get behind that.
Maybe
I can
that's
get
why.
behind that. Siobhan
Yeah.
said 100%.
Yeah.
I can get behind that. So, and that is not something that many will admit.
Correct. They'll just continue
They
to
just
be
get
defensive.
angry, right?
Mhm.
And the anger don't have nothing to do with what I said. The anger is a defense mechanism because of how you feel.
Mhm. You acknowledged how I already feel,
Got it.
and I didn't want you to say
Got it.
anything because I already feel bad.
Got it.
Yeah.
Got it. Elizanne said,
Why
because
aren't men like that? Well, I guess they're just not emotional in that way.
no, not and like I said, for me, I'm gonna get self-conscious,
Mhm.
but I'm not gonna get upset with you.
Mhm.
I don't have no reason to get upset with you.
Mhm.
I want to be desired too. So if you tell me, hey, listen, fam, what we doing here? I'm gonna be like, golly,
Mm.
did she just call me out? Like, I gotta do something.
Mm.
That's kind of gonna be my reaction. I'm
Yeah.
not gonna get mad at you though.
Mhm.
Because we have babies, our bodies change, and
Sometimes it is not what the woman wants, but as a result of. True.
yeah, that's true.
It is true.
That's true.
Yeah. So how should the subject be broached?
Great question, sir.
I think
Great question.
I think if it is the case of, well, whether it's the gaining pounds or the losing pounds, because like we know, there are some men who prefer that their women are more on the thick side.
Mm-hmm.
So I think if we can make it, or if men try to make it, this is what I'm thinking might help me. Men would make it a more inclusive thing.
Mm-hmm.
More of a let's work out together. Let's eat healthier.
Okay.
Let's not eat out so much. Let's do this together, as opposed to you need to you eating again. You need to stop eating so much. You need to, eat more salads. You need to might put me on the defensive more than let's do this together would.
Yeah.
Let's get healthy together.
Yeah.
Might help me.
I think
so.
Yeah, I think John too. I think it's going to be relative based on how your spouse receives information, how they receive communication. So let me go back to the conversation you and I recently had, right?
Mhm.
You're losing some pounds. You came to me and asked me the question, am I happy with what I'm seeing now? Completely caught off guard, stumbling, kind of fumbling over my words. Wasn't sure what to say, what not to say. Finally came out with some preferences that I have. Like there's some thick parts that are thinning out that I like thick, right? But here's what I told you. And I have to pat myself on the back for this answer because it was a great answer and I meant it.
Wow.
I meant it. I didn't make it up. But when I thought about it after I said it, I was like, wow, you are the man for that answer.
Wow. Wow.
Here's the answer. Here's what I told you. Do you remember what I told you?
Don't be so modest.
No. I'm not trying to be.
Clearly.
Not with this one.
Clearly. Go ahead.
Do you remember what I told you?
I don't.
What I told her was, what I want is for her to feel like she is sexy. Because if she feels like she's sexy, she gonna act like she's sexy. And if she acts like she's sexy, I'm good.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I meant that. That was not a cop-out answer. I was not trying to avoid the subject. I sincerely meant that. If you walk around here like you are the sexiest thing in the world, you got me. I'm good. Period.
Hmm.
I'm good. Big or small, I'm good.
Hmm.
Because you can't, if you exude that authentically,
Mhm.
it can't be denied. It can't be.
Hmm.
It just can't be. Now, do I have preferences? Yes. And we've
So
talked
what
about
do
it.
you do about those
You
preferences?
tell them.
Yeah,
You
but
tell them.
right. But I'm saying if I'm now walking around exuding this sexiness and I
Mhm.
feel great about myself
Mhm.
and I feel sexy and all of this stuff. However, the thickness that you prefer is
Mhm.
gone.
Yeah.
What then?
I will take a woman who oozes sexual appeal
Mhm.
over a thicker thigh
A thicker thigh.
all day long. All day long.
Yeah, but I
And I'm
don't.
saying thicker thigh because that's my thing.
Okay. Oh,
I'm a meaty guy
yeah, we get it.
in that area.
Okay.
But I will take it. I will take oozing sexual prowess over a thicker thigh.
But I don't know that all men feel that way.
And
And they
I
might. I
agree.
don't know.
I'm only speaking for myself.
Mm,
I'm only speaking for myself.
yeah.
Cheryl said, I think even with maturity, when size becomes a health issue,
It has to matter.
I agree
Exactly.
with that. I agree with
Exactly
that.
what I said.
And that's what we were saying earlier, Cheryl, that the health issue is actually a great entryway into having the conversation.
Yeah.
Because now you got to have the conversation.
Yeah. Yep.
But for those who aren't having health issues and they have preferences, you got
Right.
to have that conversation too.
Yeah. Siobhan says to Mr. Branch, I think the health angle is great and practical support.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there you go. That's the health angle might be the way to go.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah. That is a great way.
shout out to Sam in the comments. This
Hi,
is a
Sam.
totally legitimate issue.
It
It
is.
it is.
It is for a lot of couples.
It is, and it's not talked about.
Mm.
We've had you weren't with me. I can think of two right off the top of my head. I can think of two former clients that you weren't working with. I was working with by myself, where this was an issue.
Oh, that's
and
so hard.
and it's tough, and it was tough for them to have the
It's
conversation.
so hard. And conditions should be right before it's approached.
Oh, brother.
Agreed. 100%.
I mean, it don't matter what the topic is.
Yeah.
Conditions need to be right before it's approached.
You
Yeah,
can
definitely.
approach this topic at any time.
Definitely.
The conditions need to be right. Tone, timing, and temperature.
Yeah, it's definitely got to be. It's definitely got to be right, because if it's not,
You're just adding fuel to the fire.
You just create a bonfire at this point.
Yep.
So in the last few minutes or so, let's switch to hair.
Mm-hmm.
Hair is probably the same thing.
Probably.
Hair is probably the same thing. Now, for me, that's not an issue, because those of you who are on the Saturday night show, you probably heard me say this more than once. Let me rephrase. I was about to say I could care less what you do with your hair. That doesn't sound right. Hair is not a big deal for me.
It's not, but I always come to you when I feel like I'm going to change whatever it is I'm doing with
which
my
I
hair.
appreciate.
Yeah, because I feel like you got to look at me every single day.
And I appreciate that.
So
I appreciate that.
I want you to like what you see.
There's very little outside of you looking like Mick Jagger.
Mick Jagger?
That I would be concerned about. I don't know what he looks like, but I was thinking like, the rock and roll hair and the
he actually
spikes.
Has nice. He doesn't have spikes.
I don't know. That's the name that came to my mind. But what I was saying was, outside of like the crazy stuff.
Okay.
And crazy's relative, but crazy to me.
Yeah.
It don't really matter to me what you do with your hair.
That's
Again,
interesting.
I need you to feel like it is dope.
Right.
Because if you feel like it's dope, I'm good.
Yeah. That's interesting because I almost feel like hair is not for men.
Mm-hmm.
I almost feel like hair, what their woman's hair looks like, is almost not as big of a deal as what a woman's body looks like.
Depends on the guy.
Depends on the
Yeah, it
guy.
depends on the guy.
Okay.
I've met in the past some guys that are really big on hair. Like it's there's certain things that they're like,
Gotta
really,
be long.
yeah, I'm not really trying to.
Can't be textured. You gotta have it.
Yeah, all that
straight
kind of
and
stuff. Yeah,
Can't be natural.
yeah. I know people like that, but I'm that's not me. Like
Yeah.
that's not me. But that being said, though, again, with this show being have a conversation, like these are conversations that you have to have.
Yep. Yep.
Now, are there right and wrong ways to have it? Yeah. And I think maybe if we're going to give a small piece of advice is you should probably learn how your spouse receives communication.
Yeah. Yeah.
Kamal said hair can be a big deal. I agree.
Those Korean beauty store wigs can be brutal.
When does it become controlling? Great question.
That's a good question.
Wow, that's a great question.
The hair is an issue for some men.
That's a great question,
When does
Cheryl.
it become controlling?
When does it become controlling?
When I voice my preferences to you. Am I being controlling when I do that?
No.
That's a good question.
That's a good question. So voicing your preferences is not controlling. I think where it becomes controlling is when you force in one way or another your preferences on the other person, even when that person hasn't accepted, like you haven't resolved anything in negotiation. So let me say this. So like, say we're talking about weight, right? And I'm like, I share with you my preferences, but for one reason or another, you don't want to be 99 pounds. You would prefer to be 199 because you feel like it looks better or whatever. If we haven't been able to negotiate and get to a resolution through negotiation, and I say to you, you got to do that, or I won't accept you, or I won't sleep with you, or I won't, whatever it is. Now we're getting control.
Yeah. Wow.
But stating your preferences is just merely stating your preferences.
Right.
As a human being, you have some. Now, again, not an advice show, but me stating my preferences does not automatically mean I'm going to get them. That's the next thing that we don't tell people.
That's a very good point.
Just because I state my preferences doesn't mean that that's how it's going to end up.
That's a very
There has
good
to be
point.
some level of negotiation. There just does. Because that just is what it is. There has to be some level of negotiation. And when you come out of that negotiation, both people on the team should feel good about that.
Right.
And I'm using this is a very, black and white example, but let's just say, you prefer to be 200 pounds. I prefer you to be 100. And I'm like, you know what? Listen, can you meet me somewhere? Right. Yeah. 130, 135. Is that, and we're cool with that, then that's cool.
Yeah.
And there's a little bit more to that. But I'm just kind of giving the quick black and white, quick dirty.
So John says hair. I was not a fan when Perp decided to do the big chop at all. I love the natural hair now, but not then.
Yeah.
Yep.
And it is what it is. Like you should be able to say that, right?
Yeah.
What if the person has a fantasy is what Elizanne was trying to say.
Okay, a fantasy. And when the wife changes their hair and then they don't like it, that happens a lot.
Yeah, but if the fantasy is not about the wife, we already got problems. If the fantasy is about the wife, then you got to have a conversation about that.
Mm.
So if I have a fantasy about you looking a certain way and you switch it, I should be able to come to you and be like, "Hey, man, I love it when you look XYZ way because,"
Mhm.
and I can go on and tell you what the because is.
Mhm.
But if I'm fantasizing about Jane and you don't look like Jane,
You don't look like Jane
we already
anymore.
got a problem.
Yeah.
We already got a problem.
Right.
So that's you know what I mean. So,
Right.
but listen, here's the conclusion of the matter. You just got to have conversation
Mhm.
because what we're saying may not work at all for
Yeah.
you.
Right. Might not.
You got to know how your spouse communicates. You got to know how your spouse receives communication.
Mhm.
And then y'all got to have a conversation about it.
Yeah.
Because the guesswork is going to cause more problems than the problems you think you might cause by being honest.
Mm.
And trust me, we've sat in front of enough couples to guarantee that statement.
Mm.
Ignoring it,
Yeah. It's
sweeping it under the rug, being passive aggressive about it will cause way more issues
it does.
than you just coming out and be like, "Hey, listen, babe, can I share something with you? Man, I really like it when such and such and such," and
Yeah.
just hasn't been like that
Because
recently.
at least then when you're being forthcoming
Mm-hmm.
with whatever your preferences are or whatever, you know, is whatever it is. When you are forthcoming,
Mm-hmm.
I may feel some kind of way about it
Mm-hmm.
initially, but we go through that conflict
Mm-hmm.
and then that's it.
Right.
As opposed to the passive aggressive and um the me acting out or saying backhanded comments and
Mm-hmm.
stuff that just continues to go on and on and on.
Yep.
So at least just talk about it and get it out the way,
Yep.
type thing.
Yep.
Dwell with your wife according to knowledge, the Bible says.
Right. Which means you got to know
Wow.
her. You got to know her.
Yeah.
And we say this at the beginning and end of every show, Cheryl. Conversation is a catalyst for learning. Conversation is a catalyst for growth. Conversation is a catalyst for bonding.
Yeah.
You, if you don't talk to them, you ain't gonna learn them.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you're not gonna know my preferences. You're not gonna know what excites me. You're not gonna know what does not excite me unless we talk about it.
That's right.
And vice versa.
Yeah.
Right. Again, that doesn't mean I'm gonna get my way,
Mm.
but you will know something about me and be able to effectively and intelligently negotiate
Mm.
because you can leverage the information that you know.
Mm-hmm.
So at the end of the day, folks, you got to determine, I guess, if size, age, hair, fill in the blank, whatever it is important to you.
If it matters
And if
to
it
you.
matters, you should probably talk about it.
Yeah. Yeah.
You should probably talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's okay to talk about it. So listen, we're going to get out of here. As usual, every week we just want to kind of just throw something up in the air, dump something down on your table, and then let y'all talk about it. And prayerfully, don't nobody get in no arguments tonight over size and hair and all that kind of stuff.
That was not our intent.
That's not the intent. But you do need to talk about it. And you do need to share what your preferences are.
Mm-hmm.
Especially if it matters to you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, all right, we're going to get out of here. Again, for those of you who rock with us on Thursday nights at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we are back this week, and we're with sex therapist Tanique Gentles on Inside the Relationship this week. So make sure you tune in. Wherever you're watching this now, you can tune in, and that's going to be a good one.
Very good.
That's gonna be a good one.
Very good.
Gamal says, just for the record, I love my wife just the way
she is. I'm determined to sleep well tonight. I know that's
Brother,
right.
Let me tell you something. That might be some good advice, Gamal. Whatever preferences you may have, maybe you don't mention them tonight. Right?
Well, he said he loves her just the way she is. So
He also said he determined to sleep well tonight. So
stop causing trouble.
I'm with you, homie.
Stop it.
100%. I'm with you 100%. Great conversation. Siobhan, thank you for being here.
Have a great night. Siobhan. Thank you.
Elizanne said, have a great night as well. Have an awesome
Good night,
family.
Elizanne.
All right, we're going to get out of here. Listen, blessings on you all. Have a phenomenal rest of your Saturday night. Have a great rest of your weekend. For those of you who rock with us on Thursdays, we'll see you on Thursdays. For those of you who rock with us on Saturday night, we'll see you next week.
Good night, everyone.
Peace out.
Have a good night.